everybody, and welcome to another episode of Everyday EDC. My name is Tyler, and today we are reviewing the CRKT Caligo. Caligo or Caligo? Not sure. Interesting fact about this is a TJ Schwartz design, and Caligo, or Caligo, not sure which it is, but it actually means darkness in Latin. And you can see how it got its name. So this is actually a D2 blade, and you only get the D2 blade from Blade HQ, but they're all currently out. I don't know if they're getting any more, but you can get the 8CR13 MOV from a lot of different places, ranging from like 30 to 40 bucks. This particular model for D2 is $44. So there's that. We have a nice hollow grind on the blade right here. We have a T8 pivot, which is free spinning, but the cool part about free spinning pivots is this wasn't perfectly centered. It still isn't, but you can adjust each side, and each side moves it back and forth. So you can find that sweet spot if you're willing to take the time. These body screws, these are T6. It does have a deep carry pocket clip that is not ambidextrous. It can only go on one side. But the pocket clip's pretty good. I've been using it all week. No problems with it. Loving it. It does have a lanyard hold that is slightly emphasized with the pocket clip, seeing as how the pocket clip design is down here. Not a huge deal. We have a nice little sharpening choil going on right here. That's perfectly fine. This is a aluminum body and a stainless steel, steel liner lock here. So due to my recent change with this, and adjustments that I made, it's a little tight, but I was trying to get it centered before the video, and then I was like, eh. So this aluminum is a 6061 aluminum, and having dealt with aluminum, basically 6000 series is meaning magnesium and silicon content. They call it aircraft grade. Take that for what you will. It's basically a cheaper magnesium content other than a 5000 series style of aluminum. So we have this modified drop point blade here, and overall, ergonomically, it's pretty sound. It's very discreet in your pocket. It weighs a little bit more than it looks, but it's not that serious. And this cool little pivot collar right there, that's blue with a little accent, and another aluminum backspacer that runs half the length of the body. Let's check out the liners. The liners are not milled out, but they are recessed. And a prime example of what's next here is this is operating on the IKBS, I believe it is. So the IKBS is a bearing system that it's like I North Corn or something. Like, dude, it's a very weird name. Basically, it means that these bearings are free floating in here. There's a cage, but they're not caged. It basically has a track that they run on. All right. Let's get into some specs, jump into some size comparisons, and then give my overall thoughts on this beast. This little beast. So the overall blade stock thickness is coming in at about 130 thousandths. The behind the edge with this nice hollow grind Mr. Schwartz gave us. Let's see here. Not too thin, about 25 thousandths. It's not too thick either. There's nothing wrong with 25 thousandths behind the edge. The width of the overall body coming in at a 0.53 inches. 0.53 is not bad. Typical knives are coming in at about 0.5 from what I've seen. And the overall height in the pocket coming in at 1.2 inches. Again, not tall. To put that into perspective, the PM2 is coming in at 1.6, and the Manix 2 is coming in at a 1.74. So this is actually a pretty narrow knife in your pocket. I jumped into the these size comparisons, but I didn't show you all the specs. That was dumb. So this is coming in at 3.57 ounces. And last but not least, let's get some length on this guy. Sorry for jumping around. I totally jacked this one up. This is coming in at just under 8 inches. Looking at about 8 7/8 almost. The blade length is coming in at about 3 1/4, And the overall cutting edge is just under 3 1/4, so not too bad. So 3 1/4, you're not getting your blade length to weight ratio here, but that's not a big deal. So let's do some size comparisons. We got the Rat Model 1 and the Rat Model 2. As you can see, slightly larger than Rat Model 2, a little bit less than the Rat Model 1. That's where a lot of knives are falling. That's why the Rat Model 1 and 2 really fit the bill for doing a good size comparison there. Oop, easy there, killer. We have the PM2 and the PM3. So as we can see here, it's about the length of a PM3, a little bit shorter than the PM2. And as usual, this is Jake's knife, so thank you again, Jake, for letting me check this out. Pretty cool of you to send all these over. This one's pretty sweet too, by the way. Here is your feldspar, and your mini feldspar, a little bit longer than your mini, a little bit shorter than your regular feldspar. And last but not least, we have our Civivi Dogma and our Civivi Odium. It's actually it's about the same length as the Dogma. The tail's coming out a little bit more because of the emphasized lanyard hole, but the tip isn't coming out. So if you were to actually even these out, they're about the same. And then obviously much larger than the Odium. Wow, I'm cruising along on this one. Give my overall thoughts on this knife. First and foremost, this knife reminds me of one that I'm going to pop on the screen here, and you guys may disagree with me, but what does this remind you guys of? To me, it reminds me of the Benchmade 940. Not necessarily, there's obviously a lot of differences, but I'm going to try to put the Benchmade 940 right here in a picture and show you guys the two different, or the way that they look very similar. This is a $44 knife for a D2 steel. For the 8CR13 steel, you're looking at, like I said, 30 to 40 bucks. These aluminum handles, they're not slippery, but they're not super grippy. But I can tell you in hand, this feels great. There's no hot spots whatsoever. Now, you can't choke up or anything like that, but for a normal EDC, this feels just fine. The fidget on this, with the IKBS or whatever, ball bearing system, not too bad. I'm sure I can adjust it to where it's almost drop shut. That's how it was before I started trying to get it to go centered. So the fidget factor on this is great. The blade, they did a really good job of having a narrow blade stock, but coming down with this hollow grind to a 25 thousandths behind the edge. That's actually pretty darn good. I don't mind the hardware. There's a little bit more hardware than you'd like, but that is what it is. The fact that it's not ambidextrous, you're kind of like, why? Seeing as how both of these sides of the scales are the exact same, you could have just drilled a hole right there. Although this doesn't have, this has a slight contour there, like a ridge, and there's no ridge on this side, so take that for what you will. But yeah, so overall, for the price, this knife is actually pretty darn good. It's got a cool name, the Caligo. Once again, darkness in Latin, apparently. Pretty awesome. TJ Schwartz design. And it's just, you know, I don't know when this came out. I don't know if this bats with the heavy hitters. But for CRKT, I'm not mad. Usually I kind of frown upon CRKT knives. And this one in particular, I was like, you know what? I wanted to carry this one. This is the one, this is a knife that I was like, I'm kind of glad I get to carry this. This is fun. The overall look of this knife is kind of where it wins. The aesthetics are pretty awesome. If I had to rate the ergonomics, I would probably give it a 7.5 or an 8. They're average. They're not bad. There's nothing bad about them and no hot spots whatsoever. The grip, it's a little bit slippery, but not a big deal. And this black on black, for the name Caligo and the Latin meaning of darkness, is pretty sweet. This hollow grind is very nice. It brings it down as narrow as possible at that tip. So you're getting a slicey of an edge with a small amount of area to drop down. And again, the bearing system's nice. It would have been nice to have caged bearings in there, because why do you want to I almost took this apart, and I'm glad I looked up everything, because if I would have taken it apart and bearings would have went over there everywhere, I would have had to buy him a new knife. I would have never found all those freaking bearings. One complaint, this pocket clip, not ambidextrous. That's not very cool. You should have made it ambidextrous just for the sake of it. And then the other complaint is this free spinning pivot. I'm not a huge fan of those either. It does make it cool to adjust side to side now that you can, but other than that, I don't know why you would want to. You know, if the tolerances are fine and you can get it centered just off a normal anything else, I don't need a free spinning pivot. That's a little annoying. But for $44, you know, it's whatever. But then again, for $44, you're competing with this guy's non-upgraded brother, the Civivi Dogma, which comes in 9CR 18 MOV, but you're getting a lot for your buck. So again, I'm not sure when this was made. I'm sure when it was made, it feels like something that might have been made about a year ago, and it would have been a killer then. Now, it's just an average knife. The aesthetics are what, you know, in my opinion, look the coolest. It's sleek. It's kind of classy looking. You know, there's no frills about it. And I guess that's what makes it kind of cool. This is the CRKT Caligo, whatever. But can I recommend this? If this is your style, if you like I said, this kind of reminds me of the Benchmade 940. But for D2 at $44 for this style with decent ergonomics, you get the aluminum handles that really give you a solid feel. Yeah, I can recommend this. This is a pretty cool knife. You don't have any Civivis knocking out the aluminum scales or anything to give you that solid feel. Now it's all about the micartas or the G10s, you know, which is nice, but feeling something substantial in your hand, people might go for that too, right? Alright guys, this is the CRKT Caligo. My name is Tyler. This is Everyday EDC. Stay sharp, stay safe. Have a great freaking night, guys.